these players are so stinking lucky. I can't believe it because there's no loyalty in the game anymore with players. I don't believe there is. It's all about the money. And there's no loyalty also from the ownership with players anymore. It's all about the money. Now, would you ever see a Getzlaf leaving Anaheim? How old is Getzlaf? 27, 28?
That's about right. He was a draft pick in 03. So, yep, 28, 29.
He gets to 34, 35. He starts slowing down again. You think they're going to do like they did with Yzerman in Detroit? No, sirree. He's gone if he wants to continue playing. And that's just the way the game is nowadays. And it's about the money. And it really is. And I don't care. A lot of people say, oh, it's not about the money. The players play because they love it. Absolutely. But it's about the money.
Well, in a given time, Phil, if you could superimpose yourself into their shoes right now, you'd do the same thing, would you not?
It's about the money.
Yeah, it's...
Absolutely would. Listen, I screwed myself by 1975 when I went out to Vancouver and talked to Pattison. Jim Pattison?
Jim Pattison, yeah.
Up in Canada, and he owned the Vancouver team in the WHA. He offered me $1 million to sign, guys, and $500,000 to play for 5 years. I was 34 at the time. For 5 years, or 33, 5 years to play and 5 years to be in a manager at $500,000 a year. And I turned it down to stay in Boston and signed for $480,000 a year for 5-6 years. And I got traded 3 weeks later. Where the fuck is the loyalty there?
You know, it's something that you talk about loyalty. I was watching a movie the other day. It was like the Gordie Howe story. Gordie Howe's in retirement, you know, the way it's portrayed, and you feel you could probably answer to the truth of the way it was portrayed. Here's a guy who's just not happy having retired, you know, watching all the guys and they're making sign autographs, whatever.
Yeah.
His 2 kids have just been drafted out of the Ontario Hockey League into the World Hockey Association. It was a very brazen move by the Houston Aeros. And then Gordie Howe says, you know what? I think I want to come out of retirement and play for the Houston Aeros. And it was like a big, big deal that he would leave.
It was.
That he would leave the Detroit Red Wings, and they sold the owner, was it Norris or whatever, right? Just basically tearing down any images of Gordie Howe, that it was that big of a deal. So it's kind of, when you're saying what you're saying right now, it's kind of like, yeah, if you had left Boston, would all images of Phil Esposito been torn down and his name never spoken again?
But you know, the funny thing is, though, the league went, they joined, what, in 76, I think? The 4 teams joined the NHL. Well, I would have been back in the NHL, and I could have been back in Boston. It's just like Jerry Cheevers did, Derek Sanderson did, Johnny Pye did. And I would have had $1 million at least in my pocket.
So when you turned down the WHA, how much of it was loyalty and how much of it was you didn't think the league would survive?
Oh, no, it was nothing to do with the league surviving. I had no clue whether it would survive or not. It was, one, I loved playing in Boston. I loved the uniforms. I loved the city. I loved the team. The guys on the team were terrific. Everything about it. It wasn't about the money for me. It was not. How much was enough? That's what I remember saying to my wife. Hell, I'm making $460,000, $70,000. Jesus, bless me. That's that's good money. Who the hell ever thought? My dad didn't make that in 30 years. I'm going to do it in 1 year. So, and I could play where I really wanted to play. And I was offered a no trade by Harry Sinden. And I said, do I really need a no trade? And he looked at me and he says, no. And I said, after what we were through in 72? I said, I don't think I need a no trade, do I, Harry? And he says, nope, you don't.
Wow. My goodness.
But it wasn't him.
Right.
It was the owner.
Right.
It was Jacobs, who didn't like my contract because I had what they called irrevocable trusts. I only took 150 home only. listen to me. And over 300 went into these irrevocable trusts, which I couldn't touch until I was 42 years old, but they couldn't deduct until I started taking it. My brother and I did it. Freddie Stanfield did it. Kenny Hodge did it. And Louis Nanny did it. And I can tell you right now, Tony's still getting paid. Not only does he get paid by the Blackhawks for working for them, he still gets paid money from that contract in the 70s.
So was it the agent or the lawyer? Somebody was working with you guys and gave you some excellent advice, because that's
It was a lawyer.
that's brilliant Was it Bob?
No, the guy's name was Arnold Bloom.
But that's
He was one of my trustees, and then he bought $390,000 worth of bonds, Israeli war bonds, when Israel went through that war. What, the 4-day war or some damn thing it was, remember?
I think it was like the 6-Day War. Yeah.
These bonds don't come due till 2033. I'll be dead. I wanted to kill him.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So, my...
Why would he do that?
Because he got drunk.
Oh, okay. Well, that answers that question.
So you're saying the irrevocable clause that was in there, that was a good thing, but the part about the bonds was a bad thing? Are you saying he gave you both good and bad advice, or just that he did the thing?
Perry. You remember Carl Yastrzemski?
Yep.
Yaz, I took this from Yaz, really. Because Yaz had this irrevocable trust to Red Sox, but as that, you cannot tell your trustees where to invest, what to do with that money. You have no idea. It's all done by the trustees. My trustees was my brother, a guy named Fred Sharp, who was my business partner, and Arnold Bloom. Those are my trustees. My brother didn't pay attention to it. He was playing. And these other two guys, they thought they were doing the right thing by me. They really did. But my brother, they bought radio stations and television stations. I mean, beautiful. I would have been like, get into that. You know, Tony cashed out years ago with all of that. But, hey, look, those things happen in life, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I got screwed out of the Lightning, my 10% of the Lightning, by George Steinbrenner. So, yeah, they all try to fuck you one way or another.
So have you been able to get anything from this trust at all?
No, not till
Nothing.
2033.
Because they're all in this particular bond.
No. That I had to change it. When I got traded to the Rangers,
Okay.
whatever was left, because you couldn't touch those bonds, the Rangers came to me and said, we didn't realize this contract was like this. You got to change it. I said, I got to change it. I mean, I don't understand. I got to change it. They said, we can't do this like this. We can't. Paramount won't stand for it. Paramount owned it. I'm thinking, holy Christ, now I'm going to get traded again? What the hell's going on here? So I said to him, so what do you want to do? He said, well, you're making $450, I think it was, or $460. He said, we'll give you $50,000 more a year to change the contract, but you got to take it all and pay the taxes. I said, no, I don't want to do that. This is what I saved it for. This is my savings. This is for me. Well, one thing led to another, and I got to the point where I just didn't. I broke my ankle, so I missed 5 weeks. The second game I played for the Rangers. So I said, okay. Finally, I just said, fine, let's change it. I've had enough of this, and we changed the contract. But I still own those Israeli war bonds.
So 2033, 19 years from now, you'll be how old? 105?
I'll be in the grave.
Will you still get the money?
My estate will.
There you
Yeah,
go. All right.
yeah.
So,
My grandkids will have a blast.
Yeah, they will.
Son of a bitches, they couldn't earn it themselves.
Isn't that always the way, though, Phil? That's unbelievable. Well, that's a great story, Phil. I was not aware of all that.
Well, there's so many things that went on, too, in when we were getting the Lightning and how they screwed me out of it at the last second, and I couldn't do anything about it.
The league did, or?
Yeah, the league did. No, not the league. George Steinbrenner.
And why do you think that was, Phil?
Because at the last second, before we were to get the franchise awarded to us, they had a big meeting in New York, and we went up there, me and Henry and Mel Lowell and Henry Paul, and there they are, 8 Japanese guys, their attorney, Dave Lefebvre, Georgie Porgy, and all these guys are sitting there, and they said, listen, we're changing the deal. You see, I had George Steinbrenner's general partnership agreement. The original general partnership agreement he got to buy the Yankees. And I'm sure you've heard the story. John McMullen one time said, there's nothing more limited than being a limited partner with George Steinbrenner as the general partner. That general partnership agreement protected you so much, and you completely ran the franchise. And if you had to have a call for money, you didn't have to put money in. But the limited partners did. Or they got, they're out. It was unbelievable, this general partnership. And when George saw that we had it, he must have said something to these guys, because they said, we got to change this. We're putting the money in, so we're the general partner. And it was like 3 days before the franchise was going to be awarded. I knew we were going to get it. I just had that gut. Nobody told me. But if I had said no, then what? They would have just said, fine, we're going to apply ourselves.
Right.
They didn't need me. I had done all the work for it, but they didn't need me.
Boy, there's no loyalty in sports at all. I mean, my goodness.
To me,
All
again,
about money.
this
Business.
is another example of some brilliant tax guy or some accountants coming up with all this stuff there.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
and if you're
Brilliant, I call them crooked.
Who, the tax guys or the lawyers?
The lawyers, they're all a bunch of goddamn crooks. I'm going to tell you, the truth is, here I am sitting there. They know I did all this work that I did for this franchise. Everything I could, every penny that I'd saved, I put into it. And they said, oh, don't worry, we'll get it back to you. Get it back to you. Sure, they got it back. They give me a job, basically. Basically, they give me a job. We went from 10% to second position. So everybody else got paid first before we got anything. And which was fine. Hey, look, I still was involved. I still did it. I still was part owner. And it was something that was fine. But there's no friendships in business. There isn't. And if you go into business with unscrupulous people, they're going to try to screw you no matter what. But I had no choice. I needed the money to get the team. So you had to do what you had to do,